le monde. Good afternoon, everybody. We are the Diplomats. Did you watch that show? Okay, maybe we'll be as exciting as that show. I'll see what my colleagues have to say today. My name is Larissa Galadza. I'm from Global Affairs Canada, and I'm delighted today to moderate this panel with 5 excellent colleagues. Between them, they have had 17 ambassadorships on every continent of the world. So these are gentlemen who know the world and who know security. If you've been watching this stage today, you will have heard over and over again about the importance of alliances and relationships, the importance of collaboration, and the importance of deepening and evolving and sustaining the relationships that keep us apprised of what's going on in the world of cybersecurity. So in relationships and collaboration, as diplomats, that is our bread and butter. So we're now find ourselves in a position where we need to talk about cyber diplomacy. I don't think any of us started our careers thinking we would ever have anything to do with cyber, and yet here we are. So today we'll talk to you about cyber diplomacy, part by doing it and part by talking about it. I'll give our panelists 3 questions, one at a time, but just so you know that you should stick around because the best one is the last one. First, I'll ask them each what the most significant cyber threat is in their country. Then I'll ask them to show off, give 2 examples of something they think their country is doing very well. And then the third one, I'm going to ask them to speak some hard truths. So, 5 different countries represented on the stage, 6 if you include me. And let's position ourselves geographically. Let's enter into your country's reality with a quick highlight of the most significant threat facing your country coming from cyberspace these days. We'll start with Margus.
Thank you. Bonjour tout le monde. Ravi d'être ici encore une fois. Concerning the major threats in Estonia, in preparing for this event, I had a look at our State Information Authority's yearbook from this year, which described the situation in Estonia in cyber field in 2024. And State Information Authority is a body that is responsible for guaranteeing that the state information systems are up and running. They are responsible for setting the standards for any services that are built upon the infrastructure that they maintain, and then also help make sure that people understand what they do. Now, according to their year report, there were more than 6,000 incidents in cyber field that had any impact or impactful incidents, which was twice as much as the year before, so the increase was considerable. And out of these 6,000, 4,000 and slightly more were phishing incidents. Then the next biggest ones were a group of 3, each of 600 incidents, which was service disruption or denial of service, fraud and malicious redirect. But the fact that 4,000 out of 6,000 were phishing incidents, that actually puts the user into the very center of this concept of cybersecurity.
It's not a particularly sophisticated kind of a threat, but just goes to show how difficult it is to get people alert and acting in their own best interest. Thank you. Kaspars.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'll join what my Estonian colleagues said. That basically, we have a quite significant cyber threats sort of directed at our countries. We looked at I looked at the similar statistics. It's EU statistics that said in 22 and 23 years Three of Baltic states combined received, let's say, 32% of entire cyber threat against the entire European Union. So to put it in perspective, so three of us together, it's like 5.5 million people, three nations, and it's out of 450 million people in the European Union. So we are really at the forefront of receiving cyber threats. So some of them has gone in like a couple of past years, 3 or 4 years, like 400% up. In some of the categories, it's like 700% up. So I think that's quite a significant. So that's what we have seen so far. So the question is, what are the things that we have not seen? And the other thing, of course, is that we are seeing that there is more and more automation going in the cyber attacks. So that's another let's say, level that we'll have to deal in the future. And of course, we on our side are looking at the more secure data transmission, and that's through quantum data transfer, but it's also the other side may also look at the same technology. So I guess we'll have a new, let's say, technological leaps in what we can expect also in the future from the cyber security perspective.
Let me complete our tour of the Baltics and jump to the end. Aidis. Just speak into it.
First of all, thank you, Larissa, for inviting us. Dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to suggest to change the title of our panel. It sounds cybersecurity diplomacy, but actually I suggest to change it to the role of diplomats in times of war. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we have to admit that we are in times of war. We have been attacked by our enemies, adversaries, autocratic regimes, mainly Russia and PRC, China, on everyday basis for many years. Recently, last 2 or 3 years, they dramatically intensified attacks against us. Saying attacks, I have in mind not only cyber attacks, but also hybrid attacks, disinformation actions and campaigns, sabotage actions on our territories. So, speaking about intensification of the efforts, I also would like to give some statistics. Today in the morning we had a keynote speech by Polish Prime Minister, so I would quote numbers from our neighboring country, Poland. In 2024, Poland experienced 111,000 cyber attacks in 1 year. This year, in 9 months, 170,000, from 2,000 to 4,000 a day. When a few weeks ago Poland was attacked by Russians, Russians attacked Poland by drones, in 6 hours during that night, more than 180,000 fake messages from Russian administrated boats were posted on Polish social media, blaming Ukraine for this attack, blaming Polish government, and so on and so on. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we have to admit that we are in times of war. And main threat, of course, for Lithuania is posed by, as I mentioned, autocratic regimes like Russia and China. It's not so much different comparing with other countries, but another threat is inside us. It's we are not decisive enough. We are not rapid enough to react. Not necessarily always we react in adequate way. So that is a threat also to all of us.
Thank you very much. La France.
Well, I would say that the cyber diplomacy exists. It exists because it's basically it answers a fundamental question: how can we ensure that in face of the threats, cyber threats, we pursue international cooperation to ensure security, stability, and trust in cyberspace, rather than contributing to its destabilization? And this is something we need to take into account. International law applies to the cyberspace. And that's why the EU, the United Nations, created these instruments, and especially, I would like just to add that to what my Lithuanian colleague said. I mean, the EU created a toolbox, which is an impressive one, in order to give the ability to European nations to name and shame. The designations of the aggressors is something now which is of the utmost importance. For too long, cyber attacks were considered as, something nobody had to talk about. Now, the world has changed because all countries in the Western world, from Canada to, Latin America to African countries, and especially fragile countries, are now under attacks, especially for their critical infrastructures.
Thank you. Finally, Ambassador Yamanuchi, the biggest cyber threat you face in Japan.
If you see the map around us, our country, facing Pacific Ocean, but surrounded by Russia, North Korea, China. So that tells something. And countless cyber attacks taking place every day. Some of them are very critical, some of them not so much, but so many every day. Therefore, it is very important to increase our ability to address those cyber attacks. And also, we should remember, in the cybersecurity, the offensive side has overwhelming advantage, while defense side is very, very difficult to detect and respond. Therefore, we need to increase our own ability to address that. And the other thing is, when cyber attack takes place, some of them are known to us, public sector or private sector, but some of them are not known. That is very dangerous. So we should know what's happening every day. We may not know what's really going on. Maybe some time bomb, years later it comes out. So this is a very serious business. Therefore, I completely agree with French Ambassador Michel. The international cooperation is very, very important to address this one.
I think one of the scariest things I heard this morning was someone talking about quantum. It can't quite do everything just yet, but that adversaries are stealing now to decrypt later, expecting that the technology will be able to do that in not too long. So let's move to bragging about our countries. Whether it's cooperation or other things, what is your country doing that you would like this audience to know about to strengthen the resilience of your systems, your people, your relationship, your territory, whatever it is? And I think here I'm going to start with Ambassador Mihail.
Well, we are doing a lot. I think that now it's a top priority. It goes with all our cooperation within the European Union. For a Canadian, it may be something strange, but we consider that we need to do that in that forum. That's exactly what we did, as well as within the United Nations. Now, we declared recently that we are more forceful in designating the aggressors, and this is exactly one of the instruments. I will keep silent on other means and capabilities that should be, but one of the instruments now for us is to try to catch the attentions of the young engineers on cyber, because you can't, and what you said about quantum is exactly the image of the future threats. If you want to be able to deal with cybersecurity, with cyber attacks, you need to invest massively in human beings, in engineering, in new equipments, and this is something on which, and I would, for example, take an example which is not a French one, but I remember a few years ago when I was in charge of development, and when we were struck by the fact that the United Kingdom stopped more or less or cut by 2/3 its international aid, and the money was put on the cybersecurity. It should have been a wake-up call for the French. I mean, we have tried. I mean, we have invested a lot. We will publish in the days to come. You know, we have some troubles for the moment in internal politics. Don't ask me to elaborate on that. No need. But we have a big cyber strategy which should be published there, and where, I mean, the taxpayers will see where we put their money on that.
To our other G7 partner, Ambassador Yamanuchi.
Thank you. What we are doing is, if I use one word, capacity building for our own self inside Japan, and also helping the countries in need. So the government just enacted a law called Cyber Response Capacity Strengthening Act. That is this act to increase our own ability. Then 3 major components inside it. One is private-public partnership, because the domains attacked belong to the private sector, businesses and critical infrastructure and others. So therefore, it's very important to have the partnership between private sectors and public sectors. That is one thing. And second element is the use of data and the information in the communication. The communication should be kept in privacy and safety, but for the sake of the increasing the capacity to address the cybersecurity attack, we may need use the data and the information in the communication. So that is a very sensitive element, but that is included. And third one is we need to cultivate our ability to neutralize the attack, which suggests certain capacity to ready to offend the source of the attack. So those 3 elements are in it. That is a fundamental increase of our own capacity to address cybersecurity, the inside. And outside, the Japanese government has been promoting a lot of capacity building measures to the neighboring countries in Asia. And I would give you 3 examples. One is in Bangkok, Japanese government and ASEAN countries made a cooperation to build cyber capacity building center, Japan ASEAN Center in Bangkok in Thailand. And also the JICA, the agency providing the economic cooperation, having a lot of seminars and capacity building in each country depending on their need. And finally, the Japanese government submitted a huge amount for the World Bank, the trust fund, to enhance the cybersecurity ability in the world. So we are doing these components to help the countries in need.
Thank you. Thank you for highlighting the importance of legislation as well. I think that there are many countries in the world that struggle with the right framework and then evolving that framework and thinking and future-proofing that framework. So I know that there's been a lot of interest in Japan's legislation and because I think it's one of the newest pieces. So thank you for highlighting that. Aegidus, I'm going to go to you next.
Speaking about Lithuania, I would like to mention maybe 3 basic elements. Of course, we are on front line. Russia's aggression against Ukraine, we are quite close to Russia. Also China last 4 years started to attack us in cybersecurity space more actively and brutally, so we have to do a lot of things, but I would like to mention 3 key elements. First of all, education, increasing resilience by educating our people, including diaspora people. So our National Cybersecurity Center is doing a great job in educating our people, our population, online, free of charge, cybersecurity hygiene, cybersecurity education courses are available for everybody who wants to increase knowledge about cybersecurity and threats. Second, international cooperation. It was mentioned many times on this stage. No one of the individual democratic country is able to protect itself. international cooperation is crucial. So we are doing a lot of work in this regard, and visit of the director of our National Cybersecurity Center is part of this campaign. He will spend a week here in Canada, in Montreal, in Ottawa, to meet Canadian counterparts. So I believe after his visit we will create some cybersecurity partnership with Canada. And last but not least, again, coming back to decisive measures, you know, when somebody commits crime, we have to punish him or them. So adversaries, Russia, China, are committing crimes against us. They have to be punished, otherwise they will continue, they will intensify. So in this regard, I just would give one example, recent example from our practice. When Russia attacked brutally Ukraine on February 24th, 2022, in few weeks we banned more than 80 Russia's media outlets, TV stations, radio stations, website connected to Kremlin. We have some interesting discussion with our partners who were raising question about freedom of speech, but we quite easily, I should say, convinced them that war propaganda, hate speech, encouragement to kill innocent people has nothing in common with freedom of speech. So that is a small example. And last but not least, example of nice international cooperation, which happened 2 weeks ago here in Montreal in the building of ICAO, headquarters in ICAO. Russia was again punished for its crimes and undermining aviation security. Second time in a row it was expelled from the main executive body of ICAO Council. They collected only 62 votes from 186. So that is a great example how we can punish, isolate those. And by the way, also very important resolution on Russia's and North Korea's activities in interfering GNS also was adopted by the Assembly. So that's, I believe, two great examples what we can do cooperating and uniting our efforts.
So you talk about the things that you do with your own people and the things that you do with the rest of the world and everything in between. Margus.
On international side, I would not do my work properly if I didn't mention Tallinn mechanism. That is after February 22, a group of countries got together and started helping Ukraine in countering the cyber attacks, both against civilian domain and military. And then by the end of 2023, a coalition of countries was formed and they signed an agreement that is now called Tallinn mechanism. There are about 10 countries, including Canada, currently presided by France, that help Ukraine defend its civilian infrastructure and maintain its long-term security. Now that's a public-private partnership, and I'm wondering how many amongst the audience are representatives of Canadian companies or enterprises? Can you please raise your hands? Some. Have you heard about Tallinn mechanism? Nope. So if you would like to help somehow, then please get in contact and we'll see what we can do. And there is also another one which is called IT Coalition, and that deals with military side of the cyber attacks and defense, which is a separate story. Now, as concerns the people in Estonia or what we do ourselves, these days I underwent a mandatory training course online and did a test prescribed by that same state information authority for all the public servants. Basically, I understand at least everyone in the foreign ministry had to take it. So again, it was, not rocket science, but I only got 86 points out of 100, but the threshold was 80, so I passed it.
That was close. Thank you for mentioning the talent mechanism. I know that the Ukrainians very much appreciate it, but we, your partners, also appreciate it, because one of the things we do as diplomats is organize each other, organize ourselves to be more effective as partners in the world, and the talent mechanism is a really great example, not just of governments coming together, but the private sector coming together to fill a very critical need for civilian cyber. Okay, yeah, rounding out this round, one of our most privileged partners in cyberspace. I hope you will talk about that.
Yes, thank you very much. Definitely, so what you follow up on what you said, so we are basically looking at the ways how we can cooperate more, let's say, government, public sector, NGO sector, and this is one of the most important ways. How do we build resiliency in the society? So I guess what we are shifting from initially in many countries, cybersecurity is seen as something as a state privilege, that this is something, the business that is done and cared exclusively by the state. But what we are increasingly seeing in our own countries, and also especially in the Ukraine, which is under attack, that it's not enough. So you have to have entire society working together. So it's not only the all of government approach, it has to be comprehensive approach. So we have a comprehensive security concept in my country, which is a small country, and cybersecurity is increasingly becoming important part of it. So it has to be approached comprehensively. So we have our CSERT institution that is working on communicating with the broader population, raising awareness, trying to increase the trust among the state institutions, or between the state institution, the private sector, and the society at large. So this CSERT organization is also at the core of building community of cyber experts that would encompass like everyone, starting from the governmental institutions, municipalities, businesses, and also NGOs and the private citizens. So I think we've seen increased interaction, growing community that brings more tangible results. We see that there is an increase of trust within the society of what we collectively do to increase our cybersecurity capacity. The other thing is, of course, is international cooperation. It was correctly mentioned by the French ambassador that we are part of the European Union and NATO countries. European Union is very fantastic in bringing, let's say, the best standards across the entire European Union regarding the information technology standards, regarding the safety and Resiliency Act. That's about the goods and services that are used in information security, but also certification of the products and services and so on. So I guess this is a wonderful work that we do together. But we could do more, and we could do more also among the European Union and also among the NATO countries. So what was mentioned in the previous panel discussion that was on this stage, it was already mentioned that Canada and Latvia is together in a thing or project that we call a threat hunt operation on public and critical infrastructure networks in our country. So this is quite a unique cooperation that we do together, two of our nations. There are more nations that are joining in as an observers or for the threat hunt surge a couple of times a year, and this has brought quite a significant result. So it's one thing is what I think it was mentioned by in the previous panel as well. So one thing is what you theoretically learn, what you do in your simulations, in your training back home. The other thing is, I think the General Yarker said, when you go hunting for the deer where deer is, and deer is not in a supermarket, that's out in the woods. So for the Canadian Cyber Command and Cyber Force, I think it is extremely useful experience to work together with the Latvian CSERT team to look at the individual critical infrastructure networks, and we have gone through in the past, let's say 3 years, about 40 critical infrastructure and public sector networks by looking at, let's say, cleaning the about 160,000 endpoint devices. So I think this is unprecedented cooperation. This brings tremendous value for us as we are able to increase our cybersecurity levels. This brings additional, let's say, knowledge and insights to the Canadians who are participating in this mission. But then the next step that we did, we put together experience that we had, and we developed the threat hunt playbook. The playbook that is available to interesting nations. Mostly we're working with the NATO countries. So one of the first consumers of that one, of course, is the Estonian-hosted cooperative cybersecurity center. The other individual nations that want to apply it and want to use it. So this, I guess, is the best manual that you can find nowadays on the market. And the third thing that I have to mention is that based on the experience, based on that playbook, we are also offering and have developed together with Canadians the workshop. So we have done first workshop for the NATO countries 1 year ago. So next week we'll be doing third workshop, and this is where NATO experts and NATO countries can come in and learn from our experience, and thus, let's say, to benefit from what we have done bilaterally together with Canada. So I'll stop here.
Thank you. I think that previous panelists talked a lot about the importance of collaboration, and what you've just talked about is very specific, concrete things that we're actually doing. Ambassadeur Mihraïev, vous avez quelque chose à ajouter à cette
Oui,
rapidement?
just, I think that there's something important was said, not only about the Tallinn process, the Tallinn mechanism. France and Sweden will chair at the end of October, by the way. What is very important is to bring, when we are talking about cyber diplomacy, it's true it's not only reserved to the states. It's also, private companies have their full role to play on this issue. And because we have many European countries on this panel, I just would like to remind that we have the new EU Cyber Reserve based on 45 companies that are now supposed to provide support and assistance in case of cyber attacks. And the first illustration will be within the Tallinn process, using it for Ukraine.
That's great to hear. Thank you for adding that. Ladies and gentlemen, they say that diplomacy is the art of saying the thing you need to say and allowing the other person to understand it the way they need to understand it. I think when we're talking about security threats in this day and age, there is no room for diplomatic speak. We have to be very frank about what we're seeing and what we're doing and what our populations need to know. So in the last minute that we have, I'm going to start at that end.
If I may, I just want to echo Ambassador Meroinas said about the, you mentioned sanctions. So I really think that we need to increase our ability to deter the cyber attack, because it is so asymmetric. So we need to increase our ability to deter. So economic sanction would be one of those, and also public attribution. If we know the attackers, we can make an announcement and to condemn them. I think that will make a difference. So that is an effort by diplomats. I just want to mention that.
It sure is. We have whole teams that do it. So you've just answered the question. The question I have then for the last quick round is, what do you think people need to know in plain speak about the world of cybersecurity and diplomacy? We'll start at that end, and Ambassador Yamanuchi, you already answered the question. So, Irius.
That was my last one. Okay.
Rapidement.
Thank you. I would like to answer briefly in this way. We have to agree what we have to do. So first of all, we have to enhance cooperation among us, democratic countries, allies. Second, we have to be, there should be no hesitation when we have to punish those who are committing crimes against us. And last but not least, we have to enhance our support to Ukraine, which demonstrates how paying a huge, enormous price, how they can fight effectively those so-called unbeatable adversaries.
Ambassador Yamanuchi, quick. You're going to add, you said you want.
That's my last word is this kind of meeting is so critical. And you know, the next meeting of this INCYBER forum will be in Tokyo in December. The title is Building Cyber Resilience for a Safer Future. It says many things, and we welcome you to come to Tokyo for the
Very
next
good
session.
announcement.
Thank you.
Michel.
I would say that cyber security is now fully perceived by most of the nations. We know what we are talking about now because we experience it. And I'm more optimistic about the level of international cooperation when you see the Pall Mall process, for example. It works. And I mean, naming and shaming is definitely the issue. After that, there are other means and capabilities, but they have to remain silent.
Thank you. A hard truth from Latvia.
Yes, so what we have experienced, of course, and seen that with digitalization, we have more and more devices and gadgets in our hands and our desks and everything. So basically, attack surface is increasing every day. And we have seen in those threat counts and cybersecurity events that we do in Latvia that the intensity and complexity of attacks is increasing. So the attackers have been able to adapt, so there is a certain degree of adaptability, and we'll have to keep up with the speed. So I will also, in the line what my two colleagues said, so I'll also mention that Latvia is for the first time, next 2 years, the United Nations Security Council elected member. And I guess that cybersecurity will be one of the issues that we will pay the attention to, and especially since we just emerged from the United Nations open-ended working group, with the new decisions on forming the new group and the mandate to work for the international rule in cybersecurity. So we'll be there.
We've heard about the importance of norm setting, and I think everyone needs to know that at the UN this is happening and it is working, and I'm glad that you're on the Security Council to do more. Last one, before she throws us off the stage.
I think it's very much like in the plane. First, help yourself, then help your others, and it also matches with the spirit of North Atlantic Treaty, which says more or less the same. After that, the accountability of those who commit crimes is important. It's not easy, but can and should be done. It took 4 years for Estonia and some other countries to figure out that for attack in 2020, some Russian military intelligence people, 3 of them were responsible, so they were indicted. International warrants are in place. Will they bear their punishment? I don't know, but that's the way to go.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for sharing your experience, sharing the experience of your countries with our audience today, and that's it.
And I
Thank you,
promise
everyone.
the people that they're going to be able to ask questions, and that's why I kept like 3 minutes, and I do have one question.
Very quickly, Messieurs, Madame les diplomates, I have verified the definition of diplomacy, and it is negotiating. Mr. Milunas, you mentioned that we are in a state of war. How do you negotiate in a state of war, and with whom?
You have 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very good question to the point. So diplomacy is not only about negotiating, because negotiations are possible only then when your counterpart is willing to negotiate. If your counterpart, your opponent, your adversary is not willing to negotiate, so ambassadors, diplomats generally have other responsibilities and duties to name adversaries, to propose instruments how to punish them for crime they committed, including sanctions. I believe in many ministries of foreign affairs, diplomats are responsible for implementing of sanctions regime. So there are many instruments we diplomats can use in times of war.
I would add to that that when things get difficult is not the time to get up and leave the table. As diplomats, when issues are complicated, when issues are difficult, our job is to stay at the table and keep talking. And I think that at the United Nations, we see that happening. And we also see it happening in other fora where we are hopefully doing right by our profession and doing right by the peace and stability in the world. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, thank you. Je vous présente une dernière fois notre beau panel brillamment dirigé par Larissa Galazza. Merci beaucoup, Larissa. Donc, nous avions Egidius Melunas, qui était de l'ambassade de Lituanie. Nous avions également Kenji Yamanouchi, de l'ambassade du Japon. Nous avions Kaspar Wazolic de la Lituanie. Et nous avons également Michel Miraillet de la France. Et finalement, M. Margus Rava, ambassadeur de l'Estonie. Messieurs, un grand merci. Larissa, merci également.